Hi, everyone. I'm sorry about the slight delay to the start. I'm Paul. I'm from the documentation infrastructure team. I'm going to spend roughly 5 minutes on what we ship for QDoc in 6.11 and then what's landing in 6.12. And I'm happy to answer any questions in the chat after. Two halves. The 6.11 recap is going to be quick because I talked of most of what happened in 6.11 in the November preview. You can find that presentation and the video of that presentation on the intranet. And then I'll move over to 6.12 where the interesting parts are. So for 6.11, the recap. In November, I talked about restoring show internal so that internal documentation builds again. A natural extension of that work is the introduction of internal file patterns, which is a configuration variable for QDoc where you can list file name patterns, for example, _p.age. And QDoc automatically marks every class from a matching file as internal. This means no more manual tagging, no more accidental leaks into public documentation from private headers. Then we have the code command that now takes a language argument. That work is from David Body. It deserves the spotlight. It's a long requested feature. It consists of two parts. First, there's a new code languages configuration variable where you list languages QDoc doesn't natively know how to mark up. This keeps QDoc from warning about them. Second, the language argument works not just on code, it also works on the snippet command, the quote file command, and quote from file command. So, if your API documentation includes, for example, Python, Rust, CMake, C#, etc., you can quote and snippet it without fighting the tool. The language tag flows through to the generator, which sets it up for online syntax highlight. Then we have requires clauses from C++20, where QDoc now pulls them from the Clang AST. It renders them in the signature, and we support both positions, template head and trailing. You won't see many requires clauses in Q6.11, of course, but the machinery is there, and it's what 6.12 builds on. And finally, I'd like to mention the introduction of multi-line template signatures. That's what you see in that tiny screenshot I put on the right. This came up as a suggestion during the 6.11 API review and shipped with 6.11. Templates that have 3 or more parameters now wrap per parameter. It's a small change, but it makes the docs much more readable. On to 6.12, I'll focus on 3 things. We have a change to the preliminary command is now customizable. It used to emit a hard-coded status that didn't match our terminology that we have now agreed on. And both the tag text and the message can be configured. We also fixed the priority so that internal overrides preliminary, overrides module state. And this aligns with the module lifecycle quip, so we hope you find it useful. Then we have the use of the A command for template parameters. If you write /AT and the function has no template parameter called T, QDoc now warns. And if you leave a template parameter undocumented, QDoc now warns. This closes a real documentation quality gap where template parameters used to be invisible to the A command, and we also didn't have any other way to document them. Then on to hidden friends. Friend functions with an inline body, so typically operator equals or something inside of a class, is technically a free function, but documenting one used to require that you scope it to the class where it was defined. That's confusing. It doesn't match how C++ resolves the call. Now you document it the natural way. So you write /fn operator equals const my class ref, and the docs match the language. A couple of quick ones. We have SFINAE rendering coming up in 6.12. So enable if T constraints now come out as readable requires clauses. This is where the requires clause work from 6.11 first starts to pay off. And we have some more C++20 concept rendering planned for in May. Then we have made some changes to defaulted, deleted, and compiler generated functions. QDoc now picks them up. They get default, delete, and implicit tags in the synopsis. And if there's no FN command, QDoc auto-generates the docs for it. For classes like QString that compare with many types, comparison information is now represented as a single scannable table instead of a bunch of scattered paragraphs. And finally, David landed a change that adds nested code tags inside the existing pre-blocks in the HTML output. which is exactly the structure highlight.js expects. So online syntax highlighting is real. And we've added LLVM 22 support from 6.12 onwards. We're not going to backport that for compatibility reasons. And then there's the final thing that I would like to mention for anyone that's following our OKRs. We just shipped the second milestone of the new generator pipeline 1 month ahead of schedule. It sits on top of a new intermediate representation for documentation. That IR is what we think unlocks a much more capable QDoc in the future. Everything is already merged to dev. You're all welcome to join our sprint reviews. They happen on Fridays in odd weeks, and you get to see it in action there. Thanks.